about to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see.
Get anyone to take immediate action in any situation. You are about to hear that by following a simple formula that uses 6 different psychological tactics, you can motivate anyone to take action anytime. This powerful strategy about to be outlined virtually guarantees cooperation from anyone in just about any situation. 1. Limit options. The first thing you want to do is narrow someone's options before you present them to them. Conventional wisdom suggests that with more options, he is sure to find something that he likes and that this will motivate him to take action. The opposite is true. If what you want him to do has numerous alternatives, he will be less likely to choose any of them. Nobody enjoys being wrong, and we don't like to second-guess ourselves. Fewer choices mean that he will make a decision faster and be less likely to dwell on it afterward. There is a well-known furniture chain that holds on to every customer order for 72 hours before putting it through to the home office. Why? Because it found that over 60% of people within 3 days of a major purchase will come back to change their mind about the color, a fabric, or the design. With too many choices, most people freeze and take forever to decide, and once they do make a decision, their brain often churns with, "Did I make the right choice?" Unless you're in a retail situation where competition mandates selection, offer no more than 3 options, with 2 being ideal. No choices can lead to a person's feeling his freedom is restricted and cause him to back off. Any option, even one, gives him a sense of empowerment, and you want him to believe that he's in control. 2. Give a deadline. Giving a deadline for action fulfills 3 separate and very important psychological motivations for fostering action. A task will expand or contract depending upon how much time you allow for it. The world operates on deadlines and expiration dates because if there is no immediate need to move forward, most people will not. It is human nature to wait until conditions become more favorable, or until we have more information, or until we are in a better mood before taking an action. It's important to give a clear-cut deadline and let the person know that the action must be taken now, because he may not have a chance to act later. This also invokes another psychological motivation in that we don't like our freedom to be restricted. Whenever we are told that we cannot have or do something, we end up desiring it more. So by letting an individual know that he may not get the opportunity to act in the future, you create a larger incentive toward moving now. There is another well-known, though less scrupulous retail store that puts sold tags on items that it wants to get rid of. They do it for this very reason. When we see a sold tag on something, we are unconsciously driven to desire it more. Then when we find out that another just like it may be for sale, we jump on the opportunity to purchase it. Consistent with this law are numerous studies that show that human beings respond to that which is scarce and becoming scarcer. I'm sure you find this to be true in your own life. When something is the latest or hottest and everyone wants one, it becomes that much more desirable. And when the window of opportunity to act continues to shrink, we are driven to desire it that much more. We place value on that which is scarce. Diamonds, gold, and oil are not essential to our well-being, yet they are highly valued, but only because of the perception that they are scarce. Think about it. Platinum is worth more than gold, and gold more than silver, and silver more than copper, all because of how much of it is available to us. 3. Use the law of inertia. Sir Isaac Newton first informed us that objects in motion tend to stay in motion, and objects at rest tend to stay at rest. He might well have added that people in motion tend to stay in motion, and people at rest tend to stay at rest. If you're able to get the person moving in the right direction, either physically or mentally, starting with something easy and or fun, he will likely continue to follow through. Why is this so? Human beings have a strong need for consistency with their actions. Several studies in this area clearly illustrate how effective this psychological factor can be when applied to motivating a person. They show us that when someone is presented with a small request and subsequently does it, he is infinitely more likely to agree to a larger request, the thing that we wanted him to do in the first place, what we really wanted him to do. However, if he is not first presented with and subsequently doesn't complete the smaller request, then he has no unconscious motivation for consistency. Called the foot in the door technique, the following study demonstrates the tendency for people who have first agreed to a small request to comply later with a larger request. Friedman and Fraser, 1966, asked homeowners if they would let them place a huge "Drive carefully" sign in their front yards. Only 17% gave permission. Other residents, however, were first approached with a smaller request. They were asked to put up a 3-inch "Be a Safe Driver" window sign. Nearly all immediately agreed. When approached a few weeks later, the homeowners were asked to place the gigantic sign on their front lawn. This same group overwhelmingly agreed. 76% consented to having the unsightly sign in their front yards. When we take a small step in one direction, we are driven to maintain a sense of consistency by agreeing to larger requests. Simply, those who had agreed to the smaller request had reshaped their self-concept to include the definition that they were serious about driver safety. Therefore, agreeing to the larger request was just doing something for a cause that they already and firmly believed in. Effective fundraisers know the number one rule for raising money. The easiest person to get a donation from is someone who has given money before. PowerPoint. Music has an impact on the speed of our actions. Consider the study done by Milliman in 1982, which showed that slow-paced music played in grocery stores increases sales because shoppers walk more slowly down the aisles. The flip side of this is also true. Fast-paced music furnishes an unconscious motivation for acting quickly. Robillé et al., 1985, found that if fast music is played while people eat, they respond with more bites per minute. If possible, have fast-tempo music playing in the background to increase the feeling and urgency for taking action. To increase the benefits of this law, try speaking faster. You will notice that if you ask someone a question slowly, he will respond the same way, and vice versa. Others will be guided by your sense of urgency, and speaking fast increases this feeling of necessity. 4. Expectation. The law of expectation states that people will do what you expect them to do. Speak and act directly, clearly, and confidently. Also, take the appropriate corresponding physical action. Whether it's moving toward the door, picking up a pen, or dialing the phone, people will respond to your assuredness and act accordingly. In other words, you can use more than just words. Use your actions as well to spark action. If, for example, you want someone to follow you, literally, begin walking without looking back to make sure he's coming. Your words and actions must convey confidence and expectation that the person will comply. 5. Processing information. It is crucial to this process to know how people process information. The good news is that we all do it in the same way. In my book, Never Be Lied to Again, I talked about this concept and how it gives us a dramatic insight into human behavior. Remember before when we spoke about starting with something easy and simple to enact the law of inertia? Well, let's take a look at another application of this process. When it comes to doing something that we like, we do what's called single tasking. When we think about things we don't want to do, we do what's called multitasking. What does this all mean? Well, if you have to pay your bills but never feel like doing it, what are the thought processes you might go through? You think, I've got to get all of the bills together and organize them into different piles. Get out my checkbook, stamps, and envelopes, address each letter, write out the check, balance the checkbook, and so on. When it comes to doing something you enjoy doing, you internalize the steps in larger groups. For example, if you enjoy cooking, the steps might be go to the store and come home and make dinner. If you hated to cook, everything from waiting online at the supermarket to cleaning the dishes afterward would enter into the equation. Fine. But what's the practical use of this? Well, if you want someone to take immediate action, you're going to show him that it's simple and easy. If you want to discourage a behavior, you need only stretch out the number of steps into a long, boring, and arduous process. It's the same event, but depending upon how it's internalized, you'll generate a completely different attitude toward it. 6. Additional incentive. But wait, that's not all. How many times have you heard this familiar phrase at the end of a commercial or late-night infomercial? The add-on is a highly effective tool for generating action, whether on TV, in person, or on the phone. So use it. It's estimated that the use of this technique increases the response rate from these programs by as much as 35%. It gives the person an extra benefit for acting, and the most fascinating thing is that it almost doesn't matter what it is. Once you've presented your request by employing the tactics before, use an add-on. It can be any small additional benefit that the person gets for taking action now. For example, we can get ice cream. I'll have a loaner car for you. We'll go to dinner afterward, etc. You'll be amazed at how efficient this psychological tool can be. PowerPoint. The language that you use can also invoke the law of inertia. Seemingly innocuous words such as, while, and during are such powerful motivators that they are often used in hypnosis. Remember that when a person is already in motion, either in thought or physically, it's easier for him to continue. For example, if you want compliance, you're better off saying something such as, "While we're out, let's go by Jim's house, okay?" Instead of, "When we go out, do you want to stop in and see Jim?" Do you hear how easily the first sentence flows with the idea of seeing Jim? Strategy review. Narrow a person's options to avoid extensive deliberation. Fewer choices mean that he will make a decision faster and be less likely to dwell on it afterward. Give a deadline for taking action. A deadline restricts freedom and increases our desire to gain what is rare and becoming scarcer. This greatly motivates us to move forward and to take immediate action. Engage the law of consistency by first having an individual commit to a smaller request. When we take a small step in one direction, we are driven to maintain a sense of consistency by agreeing to larger requests. Use your words and your actions to engage the law of expectation. Maximize the law of inertia by reducing what you want a person to do to simple, easy-to-follow steps to get him to begin moving in the right direction. Offer any small additional benefit for taking action now. This will significantly increase your chances of gaining compliance. Keep in mind that the number one psychological rule that determines if someone will do something for you or even with you is that she must, to some extent, like you, and, preferably, trust you. So listen to Chapter 1, Get Anyone to Like You, every time, in order to round out your psychological strategy for this section.